You know, success in life isn't so much about what you know. It really is about what you do with what you know. You see, knowledge between your ears is about potential, but it's not really value added until you share it. Make those connections and share it, and that's where the tragedy starts. We far too often waste knowledge. You know why? Because we're not nice enough. We're not likable enough. We're not open. We're not agreeable enough. We don't make ourselves someone others can relate to. And that's unfortunate. So we have to learn to get over ourselves. Leaders, experts, hear me. You've got to get down off of that pedestal sometimes. Put 2 feet on the ground. Close your mouth, open your ears, use your eyes, and see the amazing people around you for the unique individuals they are and the value they add. And when you do, it's amazing how much more interesting they might find you. And that's when knowledge gets shared. Great relationships are born, great teams begin. Now, I met a guy years ago who learned this lesson in an interesting way. I'm in class, I'm teaching a course years ago. One of my students, guy's name's Dave, raised his hand like this. Now, in my class, this is funny. Nobody would ever raise their hand. We just talked. But he was polite, old school, young 40-something executive. He raised his hand, and we loved it because we knew when Dave raised his hand, we were going to hear something interesting. He was thoughtful. And he said, well, look, Doc, I hear you. I want everyone here to know I agree with you. But, big pause, he says, I want them to realize it's so much more difficult to go to work with real people and get stuff right than it is to sit here in a classroom and just talk about it. And I said, you know, you're right. He goes, well, I messed that up recently. I screwed up. I learned something. It's embarrassing. I didn't want it to happen, but it did. I figured maybe I'd share it with the class, and you guys would avoid the same mistake I made. I said, that sounds great. Go for it. And he said, well, you all know I just got my first executive role ever. I'm a leader of leaders. Beneath me, this is his words, not mine, I have 20 code jockeys. These are people who are expert computer programmers who each have teams below them. He said, I love these guys, and I knew the power of showing gratitude and being thankful when they really earned it, and so I waited. He said that night, I waited for a month or two until real milestones piled up, worthy of thanking and applauding. And unannounced, I walked out into their cubes at work, and I called everybody over for a big huddle. I didn't tell them why. I just said, everybody come out here. All of the managers came out there. He said, I took a knee like a good coach, and I got down there, and I said real simply, you guys are doing great work. Thank you. I want to tell you how much I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. So I'm going to take everybody on the team to happy hour. Now, you drinkers in the crowd who just giggled, like me, enjoy a good happy hour. But you're also bright, and you know, not everyone does. A couple of days later, they went to happy hour. There's Dave waiting on the team. Half the team showed. He was baffled to see only half of his team there. Late that night, one guy left at the bar with Dave, someone he's known for a while, who will give him straight feedback. He's a member of the team, and he said, look, not everyone likes to drink, pal. I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, people who came tonight didn't show up to have a drink and a smile with the boss. They came because they thought if they did not show up, that somehow they were going to lose points back at the office. Dave found out that he had tried to do something positive. He had inadvertently created a negative outcome, and he was embarrassed. This is not what he was used to as a professional. Went back to the office. He was embarrassed. He couldn't look at people for a couple of days, but he resolved to cook up some awesome thank you for his team in the future when they earn it that would be so awesome, so powerful, they would forget the odd happy hour incident. And he waited, and milestones piled up, and when the time was right for a second time, Dave waited out in the middle of all those cubes and offices and called the unannounced huddle, and everyone walked over like, good God, here comes happy hour. And he said, down on one knee again, he said, let me tell you guys, you're doing great work. You're making me look good. I want to show you how much I appreciate your hard work. So I'm going to take the whole group canoeing. Can you imagine what these poor people were thinking? Now I've got to get sunburned with this idiot. A couple weekends later, they went canoeing. The same half a team showed up, almost to a person. And the same guy gave Dave the same feedback, saying, pal, you just did the same thing twice. But this time you ruined the weekend. Dave had a professional crisis, he told class. He had never felt this disconnected and aloof in a professional context. He was very embarrassed. It took many days back at the office before he could actually look them in the eyes once more. He said, I just sat there a lot for hours, and I watched them right there doing what they do in their natural habitat. I just watched them. And finally, it hit me. I broke through. I had what he called an epiphany. I realized that what I'd been doing this whole time was very simple. I'd been doing nothing more than projecting me onto them. That's all I was doing, projecting me onto them. He said to my class that night in a very confessional way, you know what? I like to drink. I like to canoe. Very often I like to drink while I'm canoeing. And the breakthrough moment was realizing that had nothing to do with my team. He said, when I realized that and a new lens clicked in place, I saw something right there in front of me. It had been there every day, but I missed it every day until now. I saw it. Everyone's hanging on his words in class, listening to this story. I said, what did you see? He goes, I noticed that every single person on my team, every person, had a very clear indication in their workspace that they were a huge fan of professional wrestling. Bobblehead, figurine, mousepad, screensaver, signed autograph. Now, Dave, like me, thought that professional wrestling was about the stupidest thing man ever created. And he understood, which is so beautiful, how little that meant. And the next time those folks had genuine things worth celebrating, he, for a brave third time, walked down the middle of all those cubes and offices, called the huddle, took a knee, and everyone's just, oh, God, he's going to make us jump out of airplanes. He took the knee, and he said, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Thanks, you're doing great work. Bam! He pulled out tickets to the freak show, and the next weekend went with his team to see the men in tights do their thing at the local Coliseum. 100% of the team showed up. Dave said what happened that evening was really magical. They called me by my first name, comfortably, for the first time. Hit me on the arm, pat me on the back, looked me in the eye comfortably for the first time. I could tell I was still the boss, he said. But for the first time, I was clearly also a member of the team. Thank God I learned to get over myself. Thank God I learned to get over myself. I think that you and I can share that perspective with Dave and make it work for us as well. I hope that's the perspective you'll take with you today, because, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to see an amazing array of knowledge on display. Enjoy this event. Thank you.